welcome to the Narrowing Path, walking the spiritual walk. My name is Steve Van Eierstein. Thank you for joining me again today for the daily reading of James Allen's Daily Meditations. This will be March 24th, and I'm looking forward to it. Yesterday's was a great reading on just peace and solidarity and strength and power. Just loved it. Absolutely loved it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what today's brings and seeing where we can go from there. This is going to be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning prior to reading it on this podcast, I haven't read the daily meditation, daily reading, and I will give you my genuine reactions, response, observations, and what I relate to about the reading. And so here we go. This is James Allen's Daily Meditations for March 24th. And just a heads up, it looks different than the usual layout. So here we go. It opens with love, meekness, gentleness, self-accusation, forgiveness, patience, compassion, reproof. These are the works of the Spirit. Wow, that's quite an opening line. The flesh flatters, the Spirit reproves. The flesh blindly gratifies, the Spirit wisely disciplines. The flesh loves secrecy, the Spirit is open and clear. The flesh remembers the injury of a friend, the Spirit forgives the bitterest enemy. Flesh is noisy and rude, Spirit is silent and gracious. Flesh is subject to moods, Spirit is always calm. The flesh incites to impatience and anger. The Spirit controls with patience and serenity. The flesh is thoughtless. The Spirit is thoughtful. Hatred, pride, harshness, accusing others, revenge, anger, cruelty, and flattery. These are the works of the flesh. And holy crap. That was fantastic. I love these. These are, I've said it before on this podcast. I enjoy when he gives us kind of the two sides of that coin, right? Whatever he's talking about. It could be multiple things in the reality of it. But whenever he's saying strive to be this way, and he gives an example of what the opposite look like and what it looks like when you strive to live the spiritual life, or follow that spiritual principle that we may be talking about, or whatever it may be, right? So, for this, that's what this entire thing is. So it's kind of guideposts to go off of, isn't it? Right? Because we get a description of what spirit is, living in spirit is. And then we get a description of what living for the flesh is at the end. And we have those flesh this, spirit that for this whole reading. How fantastic. Oh, it's just so good. So let's get started here with what some will probably equate with the fruits of the Spirit mentioned in the Bible. But love, meekness, gentleness, self-accusation, forgiveness, patience, compassion, reproof. These are the works of the Spirit. These are all things born from love and humility and honesty and self-awareness and understanding, right? These are all things that are manifested when walking the spiritual path, right? You practice these principles and you obtain these characteristics. Your character changes. It's such an amazing transformation of our character and who we are. Love, meekness, gentleness, self-accusation, forgiveness, patience, compassion, and reproof. These are the works of the Spirit. Beautiful opening line. And then we get into flesh this, spirit that. So the flesh flatters, the Spirit reproves. And that doesn't mean flattery of other. It means flattery of self, right? Like, and look how good I look. ego feeding, right? The Spirit rejects that. Anything that's done solely to feed the ego, anything done to inflate that sense of self that we love to do, it's rejected by the Spirit. The flesh blindly gratifies. The Spirit wisely disciplines. When we're acting in our flesh, of the flesh, it's maybe the best way to say it, what do? We seek pleasure. We seek to satisfy. We seek to distract. That's what he's talking about. It blindly gratifies. To seek those things without knowledge or without concern for the consequences, right? Because that's what'll happen. And then we selfishly are serving ourselves just to feel good, to have pleasure, to escape ourselves, to escape our situation. But the Spirit disciplines. We stand in the fires of our emotions. We stand in the fires of reality. And we weather those storms till we find the peace and serenity that stands on the other side of them. Discipline is a spiritual matter. In all ways, food, sex, drugs, alcohol. Over other things too. It could be just the little things. It could be things you might that might present as inconsequential. Just I just really like collecting those, but it's a bad habit. Those types of things. This is a big one here. The flesh loves secrecy. The Spirit is open and clear. There's so much shame attached to living of the flesh. It's in this. We'll use the terminology used here. The living of the flesh, living serving self. Because we end up doing things that I couldn't justify as good decisions. I just couldn't do it. I knew deep down in my soul some of the things that was occurring in my life that I bring into my life or the actions I take on a daily basis, I could not justify in good moral conscience. But if no one knew about it, it was okay. Our fleshly desires love secrecy. Well, the way I actually have healed so much is to shed the light of the Spirit on it, people call it. But to be honest and be open about my experiences, what I'm thinking, where I've been, what's happened to me, what I have done. When honesty, true honesty, rigorous honesty, complete honesty comes into a person's life and there's no room left for secrets, healing can actually take place. Growth can take place. You're not concerned and buried in that insecurity that they might find this out, or that I keep in shame that I like to do these things, or I can't let this go and whatnot. Secrets will keep you sick. A very common saying, and one I believe wholeheartedly in. The Spirit is open and clear. The flesh remembers the injury of a friend, holds resentment. The flesh holds resentments. When we're living for the self, we hold resentments. We remember these things. The Spirit forgives the bitterest enemy. Forgiveness is freely given. It's not earned. The resentments and the anger and the old hurts are let go of. When we replace that with forgiveness, we free ourselves and the others from our own hatred and our own destruction. Flesh is noisy and rude. Loud. It's loud. Look at me. Ego-driven. Spirit is silent and gracious. Humble. I like to equate that to. The flesh is subject to moods. The Spirit is always calm. This is huge. This is what we talked about yesterday. We talked about how our internal nature can be, we can be forever calm when we learn the truth, when we learn the spiritual way of life, when we're aligned spiritually, when we, I think yesterday, what did it say? We become one with spiritual principles. When we meld ourselves with those spiritual ways of life, right? We become always calm. We're not impulsively running on emotion to make poor decisions. We're consistent. We're clear. Level-headed to make the correct action. Not impulsive. Not hating, condemning, overly excited, lustful, whatever it might be. We stay steady, and that's huge. That's huge for me. Flesh incites to impatience and anger. The spirit controls with patience and serenity. Impatience and anger. That one just speaks so much for itself. I want it now, and if I don't get it now, there's going to be a problem, right? Patience and serenity go so much further. We understand the process, and we understand how life can turn. And in the turning of time and the progression of life, what we need and what we request and what we desire will come in due time. The right things will happen, and we have to understand that. That's where the faith and the trust comes in. The anger gives us a sense of power over a situation where we really have none. You know, it's a false sense of power that we think we can do something. And then finally, this last one: the flesh is thoughtless, and the spirit thoughtful. The self does not give thought or any consideration, or if there is, it's not weighted to the impact of one's actions. It's completely self-serving regardless of consequence. The spirit is thoughtful. We understand our actions have consequences. We understand that what we do affects other people. What we do affects circumstances. The spirit is considerate. I keep saying we. I like to categorize myself, obviously, with the spirit. But the spirit is thoughtful, considerate, understanding, accountable. Huge change for a guy like me when I started walking this path. And then we go ahead and we end with hatred, pride, harshness, accusing others, revenge, anger, cruelty, and flattery. These are the works of flesh. And you can match those right up with the first one. Love, hatred, meekness, pride, gentleness, harshness, self-accusation, accusing others, forgiveness, revenge, patience, anger, compassion, cruelty, reproof, flattery. The flesh, all self-driven, emotional-driven, passion-driven. And the spirit, love-driven, other-driven, service-driven. A beautiful, beautiful reading today. So, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Thank y'all for joining me today as we went through today's daily meditation. And I will look forward to tomorrow's as well. So we'll jump back on it and we'll do March 25th tomorrow. Until next time. Thanks.